Howdy, folks. I'm Brian.
And I'm Amber.
And here's some Reddit. So our first story is titled, Am I a Jerk for Not Babysitting for My Sister-in-Law Anymore After She Called the Police on Me? My sister-in-law and I have an arrangement. She watches my kids 3 days a week and I watch her kids 3 days a week. This arrangement has stood since March 2020 without issues. Any changes have been discussed weeks in advance. A couple of weeks ago, we had an argument. The next day, I brought my kids to her house, dropped them off, and left. I didn't speak to my sister-in-law because when one of us is in a rush, I was like, it's standard for us to just let the kids out, stay in the car, and drive off when you see the door open. I drove to work about 40 minutes away. When I got there, I had about 20 missed calls and even more texts, all from sister-in-law, all saying she didn't want to watch the kids given our argument. Her first text arrived a little before I got to her place, but I didn't see it until I got to work because my phone is always on silent when I drive. I rang her, said I'll arrange to work from home, then come and get the kids. She says I have 45 minutes to get back to her place or she would call the police. I told my supervisor the situation and she said I could leave after I did a few things. This delayed me 20 minutes. When I got back to my sister-in-law's, just a little over an hour later, she said she'd already called the police when the 45 minutes ran out. I then had to stick around long enough to tell the officer that I didn't abandon my children, there was just a communication issue. Sister-in-law and I had another shouting match later over this. I arranged other childcare for my kids, and I've been mostly ignoring her since. However, since she reached out and apologized and has asked if I would be willing to go back to our old childcare arrangement, and I've told her to go F herself. This is a family-friendly
Yes.
television program, folks. Of course I wasn't going to actually say the F-bomb. I work with kids. If I got a child abandonment on my record, I would never work in my field again, which she knew. And her calling the police was a massive overreaction. So, if she needs a babysitter, she can go whistle for all I care. She said that if I checked my phone, talked to her that morning, or came back when I was supposed to, she would not have needed to call the police. And I did this to myself, as she gave me a warning with the first text, and I could have checked my phone or spoken to her directly when I got to her place. All of which she says she would have done if she were in my position, given that we had argued the night before. I've told her that if she thinks I'm babysitting for her, she's delusional, and she's on her own. Because of my refusal, it's looking like she may have to quit her job because my brother and her would have to pay more for a babysitter than they earn from her working. My mother and brother have called me a jerk because there were no consequences to her calling the police, and that while she overreacted, she apologized, so if I really forgive her, I'll let us move on. This income loss would also mean that she, my brother, and my niece and nephew might have to move somewhere cheaper, that my brother might have to take on extra hours to work, and in an extreme scenario, they may even be completely unable to live independently, meaning that they'd have to move in with her parents, who live several hours away. So, am I the jerk?
No. Well, I like how she tells OP, well, it's your fault that I called the police on you, but then it's like, well, isn't it then your fault for calling the police that OP's not babysitting for you?
Yeah, well, the thing is, if you're gonna play a hard game like this, then expect someone to, punch back, I guess. And the thing is that OP's kind of lost her sister-in-law's trust here.
Yeah.
That's going to be the biggest problem moving forward. So now if we get into a fight over something, then you're going to act like a spoiled brat and you're going to potentially call the police on me.
Right, which could not only jeopardize her job, but also, jeopardize her kids. If the police are like, oh, you abandoned your kids, they could take her kids away.
Yeah.
This was a really serious thing for the sister-in-law to do.
Yeah, who calls the police on their sister-in-law unless it's an actual neglect issue?
Right.
And I understand that she was probably frustrated and angry, and if she had just taken a minute to take a step back, look at the situation and say, look, I'm not wanting to, I can see that you missed the call, come and get your kids as soon as possible. I don't want to babysit them today. Then that might have been enough to let bygones be bygones if she apologized for that. But this kind of situation is just, it's such a breach of trust. It's such a breach of like etiquette, and like that she should have texted her the night beforehand or called her the night before, because like how many people actually, I mean, I guess some people do, but I wouldn't check my phone if I was driving.
No, like it's a good habit to have your phone on silent so you're not even tempted to check it, because we all know that reading your messages while driving is hazardous.
Yeah. So I can't blame OP at all here. Like if someone texts me, I'm not going to even get it until wherever I arrive. So you better make sure that you text me good and early before I leave, because I'm not going to see it otherwise.
And she did let the kids in the house too, because Opie says she waited until the kids went in. So like,
she should have come out guns blazing and be like, oh, what do you think you're doing here? I'm not taking care of your kids.
Like everything looked normal to OP, and so
yeah. So I honestly can't blame OP in this situation. I think that the sister-in-law severely overreacted, putting her livelihood in danger. And so now when sister-in-law's livelihood is in danger, she's upset about it because, I mean, I don't know. I just think that I really have a hard time sympathizing with the sister-in-law in this situation.
Yeah, exactly. Our next story is, am I the jerk for sending my daughter to live with her grandmother and giving her clothes to her sister? Okay, so title is a doozy, but let me explain.
It is a doozy. We read this one ahead of time.
I am a 34-year-old female, and I'm a single mother with 2 children, a 14-year-old female and an 11-year-old female. Up until recently, they've had a typical sibling relationship, bickering, but they ultimately love each other. This all changed on Thursday. I was taking 11-year-old out for a birthday shopping trip and had left 14-year-old home alone. We were only gone for 2 hours. When we got back, everything was fine. 14-year-old was doing her homework, and she had done the chores I asked her to. 11 ran up to her room to try on her new clothes when I hear screaming. 14-year-old had completely trashed 11-year-old's room. Her clothes were cut up, her makeup had been destroyed and smeared on the walls and desk. Her books had been ripped up and schoolwork was missing. We found it in a bin bag outside, and it was luckily unharmed along with her favorite stuffed animal. 11 was understandably in hysterics, and 14 seemed to show remorse, but I was so overwhelmed that I called my mom and told her she needs to come pick up 14. While we were waiting, 11 was sifting through her stuff, and I was in 14's room going through her clothes. She asked what I was doing, and I told her that since she destroyed 11-year-old's clothes, she needs some to wear while I get her some more, and I'm giving her 14's clothes for the time being. 14 still had enough clothes to wear, though. She got super upset and went outside to wait for her grandma. It's Saturday, and I was talking to my sister and friends about it. My sister called me a jerk for shipping 14 off without trying to understand her motives, and for giving her clothes to 11. She accused me of favoring 11. My friends also said it was weird that I gave 14's clothes to 11 and that it was an odd punishment. Am I the jerk? Info. I don't favor one daughter over the other. I grew up as the obvious second choice out of myself and my sister, and I strive to make them both feel loved. Literally last weekend, 11 went to stay with her uncle and cousins so that the 14-year-old and I could have a spa weekend together. So it's not like I neglected either of them. We're also very open about mental health in general, and this is one of the only times I've acted on anger or impulse in front of my kids. 14 doesn't have any diagnosed mental illnesses. It was a priority to get them both checked because I have mental illnesses, but 14 got checked in September 2020 and nothing came up. I'm going to get 14 a therapist, but it's hard due to recent events. Edit, people are assuming I'm not talking to 14. I am. I also asked why she did what she did before her gran arrived, and she said she didn't know. Earlier today, she told me she wanted to smash things up. People also have an issue with the length that I've sent her away. I want to make sure 11 is okay mentally too. She had literally all of her belongings ruined, and I don't want to put her in a position where she has to live with someone who did that to her. I'm planning on switching the girls. 11 goes to grandma and 14 comes with me, But again, I want to make sure everyone is okay mentally. Edit 2. Someone mentioned a TikTok trend where people smash other people's belongings. I know both 14 and 11 watch TikTok, so I might scroll through the videos to look for evidence. Does anyone know the name of this trend or a hashtag I can use to get those videos? Thank you in advance.
So, this is an interesting one. This is probably one of the more unique ones that I've ever seen here. First off, I think I want to address the whole giving the clothes to the 11-year-old. Like, the 11-year-old literally has no clothes, essentially, is what it sounds like. And it doesn't even sound like the OP here is doing this permanently. She just said that for the meantime, like...
yeah, for the time being.
Yeah, for the time being. And, that's... for the time being here is basically saying, I'm not doing this forever. I just want to give my 11-year-old clothes to wear in the meantime. So I really have a hard time saying that this is like a punishment even as much as it is, what else are you going to do as a parent who has had their kids' clothes destroyed?
Right. And, I think the important thing to recognize here is that the 11-year-old has just had everything of hers destroyed.
Yeah.
It's important to get the person who did that to her out of the house.
Yeah. I don't even know that this was super impulsive either. I think that, separating the two, I think, was a good call.
Right.
And, just to even put people on a cool down here, it's, I don't think that this seems like an unnecessary or, unfair punishment. I think that it seems really prudent. I think it seems pretty reasonable to send the 14-year-old away, at least just temporarily. I mean, it's not like you're doing this forever.
Right. It's to do this while the 11-year-old gets, into a better headspace. Because she's just, having all your stuff destroyed is going to be traumatizing.
Yeah.
And she needs time away from her sister. And she needs to know that she's loved and supported.
Yeah. And this was a really out of the blue thing to happen. It sounds like the 11-year-old's having a birthday that's coming up. Everything was going great. And then suddenly, happy birthday, all your stuff is ruined.
Yeah. So,
it's such a sad situation, especially if this is driven by one of these TikTok trends. I mean, I don't know. Do you folks know anything about a TikTok trend where you destroy people's stuff? That sounds incredibly uncool.
Yeah.
There's some cool things that come out of TikTok. This is not one of them.
Yeah. So, I don't think that anything OP says she's done here sounds like it's bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really don't think it's that bad. It doesn't sound like she's you're living with your grandma forever.
Right,
and
you're banished and
you're banished, and all of your stuff goes to your sister.
Yeah.
It's not even eye for an eye at this point in time.
Right.
It's not like she was like, okay, now 11-year-old, you get to go and trash your sister's room.
Right. That would be an inappropriate punishment. But getting a 14-year-old out of the house so 11-year-old can try and get her life back in order, I think makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And giving her some clothes to wear so she has clothes also makes sense.
Yeah. What a horrible thing to do to someone.
Yeah.
Poor kiddo. Hopefully it is just TikTok and that
this is a wake-up call not to do TikTok trends.
Yeah. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks to Amber for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed this video, consider giving me a like. If you didn't, consider giving me a dislike. I'll also be releasing a shorter video today, or I already did. I don't really know when I'm scheduling it. Apparently YouTube has these things called shorts, and I'm going to give them a shot. I think I'm just going to do kind of the similar format here, just a little bit easier to digest, a little faster, so that if you like these stories, then you might be able to get a quick taste of them.
A bite-sized
version. So I'm going to attempt to do that, and so hopefully you'll enjoy those videos as well. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow or today.